So we found yet another 2024 anthology film. I didn't know about any of these, but I came across this one. And what's funny is we pressed play on this not knowing anything outside of the like very small little blurb that essentially told us that it was an anthology film. And we were watching maybe about, I don't know, 5 minutes of this movie, and we saw an exterior shot of an apartment building, and we were like, is that not the exact same apartment from Evil Tapes that we just watched and reviewed maybe a week or two ago? Mm-hmm. And I, went to IMDb and I looked, and this just so happens to be that same director. Yeah. So I can only assume that's got to be the exact same apartment. But it's funny, I guess because it's so fresh in our mind. But it was just like instantly recognizable, and it's not even that like unique of a layout or
Weirdly,
anything.
I actually think it kind of is.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know why. I think it's because it sort of reminds me of like a hotel setup where it's like there's an interior hallway and then the apartments versus like most apartment buildings that I've lived in, even if there's hallways, it's all outdoors. You know what I mean?
Is that one's outdoors, is it not?
It looks like it's inside something. I could be totally wrong on that, but
looked like it was outside.
It's a recognizable one to me.
Sure.
So that was fun to notice it and be like, oh, it's by the same director.
Yeah, so this is from Alexander Henderson. I keep wanting to say Hamilton, but it's Henderson. And in the Evil Tapes, I think we get 5 stories. Maybe in this one we definitely get 7. It's in the title, 7. So it's a little easier to remember. I'll say this right out the gate, right up front. I think if you're a fan of the Evil Tapes, then you should definitely check this one out.
Yeah, definitely.
This one is, I can't remember what ones we exactly liked in the Evil Tapes and which ones we didn't as far as like the order of them went. Mm-hmm. But I feel something similar-ish here where this movie and my memory of the other one, the Evil Tapes, is a lot more front-loaded. Where the first 4 segments I really enjoyed, and then the last 3 were okay and like were a little too repetitious for me, but he definitely has a very specific style, and he likes to recycle his material because he has a good eye for horror and like these urban legend type setups that he likes. So that's definitely what these are. These are supposed to be these like very short-lived, one-dimensional urban legends, and the characters kind of fit that because the dialogue and like just the whole thing feels just like it's there only to serve the premise. Like the dialogue just gets you to the next thing. It's super one-dimensional. It's not very believable. The actors are just delivering the dialogue. I don't know. For me, that's the weakest part of it. There's a charm. I think you had said that it like kind of adds to the charm.
Yeah, I found especially in the first couple, like the amateur quality of like the acting almost made it seem a little creepier to me because it sort of made it feel more real, which I don't know why it would. You'd think it wouldn't, but for me, that's just kind of how it felt.
Not as polished.
Yeah. There's not... I would say that there's some good acting in this, like okay acting, and then like, just some performances are more amateur than others kind of a thing.
Definitely.
Nothing like, for me at least, nothing outrageously like horrible. And
no.
We watch a lot of like low budget indie, so we're fairly used to this level of performance. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the writing is definitely the low point on these because I really enjoy the setups and the scares. I think the horror works really well.
Yeah.
Especially like the first segment genuinely freaked me out a little bit He does some cool stuff with like editing out frames of movement, and
Yeah.
I think some people will find this lame and not like it, but it works for me. It does have like a creepypasta, like you said, urban legend kind of vibe to it, and some Uncanny Valley stuff going on as well, which I'm always a fan of. But the other thing, like you had said too, is that there's definitely some repetitiveness to this and the Evil tapes. I think by the time we got to like the 7th one, we were just like, okay, it's another parking lot at night with a woman alone.
Yeah. Waiting for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I think he has a good eye for concepts, for short stories, and he has a good eye for framing his horror and creating an atmosphere. He's a bit of a one-trick pony in a lot of ways. Like, he likes very specific types of horror, and he kind of just redoes them over and over again. The premises here, they do mirror each other in a lot of ways, with people in a open space, mostly like a parking structure or parking lot. They're usually alone, and they're waiting for someone who's supposed to come get them in the middle of the night. They're vulnerable, and then someone creepy is like behind them or in front of them, and they're dealing with whatever that entity or person is doing in the moment. And that's kind of just it, over and over and looped. But yeah, the first segment deals with a guy in a parking structure. That's probably the best of them. I think that one is the most realized and well thought out, because there's more to it. We actually go into like a hypnotic state, which I thought went deeper into his concept. Yes. And gave some dimension to it, and there's another character to play off of for him, because he's talking to somebody in his car that's actually there with him, and I think that really helps the scene, as to where a lot of the other actors are kind of acting opposite a phone and a voice on a phone, and their interactions feel very dead. That like there's no urgency to them, there's no chemistry between them, there's no anything. So having them kind of like side by side, I think lets them play off of each other better and makes it feel more real. And as far as like that, how that all plays out, I think that the way that the horror is done in that is very creepy and eerie. The horror in this feels like a good horror short you'd see on YouTube, and I'm assuming he released these one by one as YouTube shorts and then made a compilation and throws them up. I think they did the same with Evil Tapes, I can only assume. This movie is available and free on YouTube to watch in its entirety, as is it on Plex and Tubi for free, so you don't have to pay anything for this one. I will say this, though, we haven't talked about this. We'll get to the other segments here in a second, but this is easily, as far as my memory goes for the moment, especially recently, this is by far and away the laziest wraparound I've ever seen in it's like it's not even necessary.
Yeah, it feels it is a really bad wraparound.
You want to talk about repetition.
Yeah.
So we get this kind of like low angled shot of a payphone. Same shot, same angle.
Yeah.
The phone rings, a guy that we can't see, a faceless guy, just his arm and his hand like pick up the phone and bring it out of frame. And then he's like, hello, and like the voice on the other end, the creepy voice on the other end, says the title of the Anthology segment, and he's kind of like, what did you say? And then it like goes into it. Yeah. And it does that every single time. And then the movie ends and it's just the phone ringing with nobody at it. You can consider that a spoiler. I don't really care. There's nothing really to that. What am I spoiling?
Yeah, it's definitely just kind of like, because these are likely shorts, that were filmed, that's just something kind of quickly thrown together to try and tie them together.
Quickly.
But it does
5 minutes.
Definitely, it is pretty lame, I will admit, for sure. Like, you could have just taken that out and just cut from story to story, and I feel like I would have been fine. Like, I don't feel like it adds anything, but
I think it's just, it's a quick patch. to make a movie.
Yeah, I
right?
get it.
You go out with your buddy. Honestly, this is probably his arm, and he probably did it himself. And I commend him for writing and directing and editing and mixing and all of the stuff he does. He does everything for these shorts.
Yeah.
And so with this one, he probably was like, okay, I got 7 shorts. It amounts to about an hour and 2 minutes or something. It's a very short film. And he probably was like, I need a wraparound, and I want to get it up fast. He's making these things on the fly. He's making these things independently. He doesn't have a budget much. I think what he does get out of these with the budget that I'm sure he doesn't have, I think is very impressive. It reminds me of the guy who makes the fear footage movies, as well as the other film that we got recently, the Eerie Project.
Yes.
So I would liken him to that director. But yeah, I am guessing he wanted to do this very quickly, wanted to get this up fast, and was like, you know what? Like, I don't have time to get like actors and write some like elaborate wraparound. Like, it doesn't really matter. People are here just for the segments. I'm just going to literally prop a camera up, go up and grab a phone like 7 different times, and then not grab the phone one time. And that, I bet you this took him less than an hour. He was by himself by a payphone in the night and just did it, and you have your segments, and he added in the audio in post, and he's good to go. And that is, as I said, I get it, but it's fucking lazy. Because it's literally the same angle. It's literally the same shot. It's literally just an arm grabbing a phone. It's a different arm, like a different shot every time, I think. It looked like it. But fuck, that's lazy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it for sure. But as far as the rest of everything goes, I think we kind of already said what we think about it. And, I think for a low budget, like, you got to make the most of what you have. And, these locations, I think he does a good job at setting them up, and they look creepy and eerie. I really like that there's not a lot of, like, there's no music added, or at least if there is, I don't remember it. It's a lot of, like, ambient sounds, ambient noise, which I think is very well used. I think that adds to the creepiness for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's the lack of sound.
The lack of it, yes.
But I definitely cannot move on from this review without mentioning this, because this is the thing I wanted to talk about most. So we can call this whatever we want. We can call it an homage. We can call it a ripoff. It is what it is. But I think it's maybe the second or third segment. It's called like Lucky Girl, I think is the name of this segment. So I had remarked when it was about a couple minutes in, because each one of these is between like 3 to 10 minutes. There's one that's like super short. It was like 2 or 3 minutes. And then the longest one maybe is 10 minutes at most. But this Lucky Girl one is maybe somewhere around 10 minutes. So we were a few minutes into this, and the girl gets to an underpass, like a pedestrian underpass. And I see it, and I'm like, oh, that looks a lot like the pedestrian underpass from Absentia, the Mike Flanagan film, his directorial debut, which we just reviewed on the channel. Big fan of that film. That's how you do low budget horror. And I'm sure he's been inspired by Mike Flanagan. So I have no doubt that this was meant to be an homage. That being said, it's a bit of a lift. I would venture enough to call it a bit of a ripoff. But I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. But she goes into this. There's a person standing there, and she walks by him, and she like kind of recognizes them, and is like tries to talk to him, and they're not looking. It's really well done in that regard.
Very
like,
freaky.
and it feels straight up out of Absentia. But the person's like, "You can see me," which is a direct line from that movie.
Yeah.
And it's in a tunnel that I wouldn't be surprised if this is the tunnel.
Yeah.
Because it looked identical. I actually would be surprised if it wasn't. Because I think this was filmed... I think Absentia was filmed in LA as well, as this one obviously was. So, it'd be really cool if you filmed it in the same tunnel, right?
Yeah, I think
if
that's
you're going to do an
cool.
homage.
For sure.
Do the exact same one. But that whole segment, once you get to the tunnel and going through it, it's not exactly the same, but the way that it's shot, the lines that are used, it is a hard homage.
It is. I like that segment a lot, though.
I do too.
It is different. Like the ending, I thought was very cool and very creepy. I really liked it. But yeah, it's good to mention it just because we definitely noticed it. And yeah, cool homage. I hope it is in the same tunnel because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, Photobomb was good. Mm-hmm. So another thing to note here with these types of movies, and I think this is true of Evil Tapes and plenty of other of these types of films. These are those types of films where the characters are, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but the characters are almost purposely one-dimensional, and they're only there to serve the story for the horror. Mm-hmm. So like when you tell like a campfire tale, the characters in those are one-dimensional, and they only serve the plot to get to the scare. Right, you're just getting to the point where the person realizes that the thing licking her hand is not her dog; it's the guy under the bed.
Yeah.
Right, and the characters doing things that are stupid, and the dialogue that they're using is very flat. It doesn't serve the story in any way except for to give this person some form of personality to get you from one beat to the next for the story, and that's how these feel. So people's reactions to things, like there's the staring contest one, or the guy with the ball ping hammer one, the reactions these people are having, if you try to like question any of that, if you're trying to like analyze, you can't with these. You have to just take them as these are supposed to be like stories that are meant to scare you, not realistic, interpretations of like real life. Like you're not going to get that with these types of tales. So that was something that I had to get myself in line with while watching this. Like, okay, because there was the first couple, I was fine. But then when we get into like the staring contest and those kinds of things, I'm like, there's no way, man. The ball ping hammer one, by far the most though. I was just like, what? There's no way. But there's a lot of recycled material here. I can name like the 5 different styles that he goes for, and it's just looped in every one of these. They're effective.
Yeah, but very effective.
I do hope that he starts to, in the future, because I have a feeling he'll continue to keep making these, and I hope he does, but I just hope that he starts to explore some new material for himself and push himself outside of his comfort zones. He does a very good job at establishing atmosphere, so he has that down really well. He just needs to come up with some new gimmicks, because after these 2 films, and I know he has others, and I'm sure there's a lot of reused stuff in there as well, it's going to get old.
Yeah.
And if I watch another one of him, and it's just people in a parking lot where a person's across the way, and they're being seen in the photo, but then when they look back, they're not there, or they're like waving very creepily. It's the same thing over and over. So you got to change it up. But I like this. I like this one. I recommend it to people who like low budget indie anthologies and we're fans of something like the Evil Tapes and don't over question people's logical decision making and just want to kind of see a creepy little internet YouTube video that deals with like modern urban legends.
Yeah.
So anyway, let us know if you watch it. It's available for free on multiple different platforms. It's easy to find. It's a quick watch.
It's entertaining.
Yeah. Let us know. We'll see you. Bye.